Hi, here at the Dells of the Eau Claire on the Eau Claire River in the site where I found the book Betty that I've been reading to. And I thought it would be fitting, this is by Lillian Turner. I thought it would be fitting to read the last chapter of this book where I did find it. Um, Now the house is gone, completely gone. And so I thought it would be fitting to read the last chapter here. We're not that far yet, but I'm going to read it to you. Um, Chapter 28. It's called The Collapse. Betty's illness was a sharp one. Mr. Bruce and Dot were summoned, and Dot called in Dr. Mark Parbury, and Dr. Mark had poor, delirious Betty removed to his own private hospital in an ambulance, and there she received every attention that medical nursing could give. At the hospital they also called her illness by the mysterious word collapse. Complete breakdown, body and mind, said Dr. Mark. If the foolish child had only given herself even proper food and exercise, this would have never happened. People of Betty's make are never fit to look after themselves. While she was in the hospital, there came another letter in a blue envelope to her, a letter with the stamp of a firm of Sydney solicitors upon it, and it was forwarded to her father to be opened, for Betty was not trusted with letters just then. And this letter had such news that it upset Mr. Bruce, Dot, and all the family of Bruces, excepting only the babies. In the fortnight Betty was pronounced convalescent, and she was sent home to Dot to be nursed. She lay on a lounge under the pine tree and had very few thoughts, very many sleeps, and nourishment at frequent intervals. On the third day she carried a pencil and some paper out with her, and began to scribble and grow pink-cheeked and dreamy-eyed by reason of the scribbling. On the fifth day she spoke boldly of returning to her attic. "You never will go back there," said Dot gently. "Never any more, Betty." "Won't I?" said Betty with something of her old fire. "Do you expect that I'm going to give up because I've had a headache?" "I've just got something to tell you," said Dot, looking important. "I know," said Betty. "Oh, no, you don't. I've got to break it to you, and I don't know how. Betty, you're rather important." "Oh," said Betty. Am I? Why?" "You've had a bit of money left you," said Dot. "My £50 hasn't come," said Betty, and fire shone in her eyes. "Oh, no, that is of very little consequence. You've had a lot of money left to you." "Oh," said Betty. "Am I breaking it well?" "Oh, Betty, do take it quietly. Grandfather is dead. He died suddenly, and he has left his big house and nearly all his money to you." "Oh," said Betty very quietly. "You'll be very rich, Betty, very. Isn't it wonderful?" Then Betty broke out. "It's being adopted," she said. "I told him I wouldn't be. I told him I wouldn't. Do you know what I was going to do, Dot? I was going to make a big income with my pen. I was, I can tell you. You don't know the magnificent dream I've had. I was going to be self-made. I told him that a year ago. You might have been making 200,000 a year by the time you were 60, said Dot skeptically. To tell you the truth, I don't believe in your self-made woman. "You're old-fashioned," said Betty with sarcasm. "I shall settle so much on all of you, Cyril, father, all of you, and go on as I was going." "It's no use being mad," said Dot. "Father says you can't touch the capital, and you can't get a penny till you're 21. "Then I've nearly 2 years," said Betty vigorously. Betty was the only one who rejoiced. The fortune was not for today's gathering. There was something indomitable about her, something of what the world always wants, true grit, as well as fire of inspiration. In 6 weeks from the time of her breakdown, she was back in her attic again, blithely climbing her 5 flights of stairs, and there came to her from over the water a check for 50 million, which she judiciously banked after sending to Dot, the housekeeper. That's this year's income made for me, she told herself. I can go quietly on with my book and let detestable social letters alone.